Hello, my fellow matadors. I'm so glad to see you. Today is day 5 of our challenge. In fact, it's the evening of day 5. Today did not go really well planned for me. And so I'm doing this late in the day. But I hope that you will be able to still glean from it. I want to go over a couple of things before I forget. First of all, I want you to do your score again today. Remember, we talked on day 1 about your score. Your score from 0 to 10 in relationship with God, 0 being not is lousy, 10 being absolutely great, relationship with yourself, and your relationship with your spouse or who you're doing this intimacy quiz with. So give yourself a score for all 3 areas. And, please email me. Email me and tell me what your scores were, if they went up, went down, how they did from day 1 to day 5. And drop me a line and tell me how this has been going for you. The other thing I want to tell you about this is, if you've noticed, this hasn't been about really intimacy as far as doing specific actions with your spouse. That's because the behaviors in doing those actions with your spouse come last in change. And the change begins with us. And I guarantee you, as a family systems therapist, I can tell you from 22 plus years of doing this, change happens when you change. You are the change maker of change in your relationship, not you changing him. That's the really cool thing about change. It's like hanging out on a catamaran. If one person hangs out going down the ocean in a catamaran, the other person has to hang out the other direction to keep it afloat. In the same way, if one person starts to move up, the other person has to move in order to keep that afloat. And that's what happens in relationships. You watch what happens when you change. And I double dare you to watch what happens. So I want to kind of remind you of what we've gone over this week. We started out with intensity versus intimacy, and how intensity is back here in our brain and intimacy is up here in the forefront of our brain. And we want to live up here where we have thought and reason and romance, and we can abstract think. We don't want to live down here. And we talk more about that on day 3, but the real idea of intensity is that it's a wildfire. It's dangerous. It is destructive. We don't want intensity. We want intimacy. We want a hearth fire. Day 2, we talked about finding your water buffalo. Find the people in your life who are your water buffalo, the people in your life who you feel safe with, the people you can run to when you've messed up, or then they're not going to judge you, the people you can run to when things haven't gone very well, or you need help, or you need accountability. And they are going to be there for you without judging you. Find your water buffalo. The third thing we talked about on day 3 was goodwill, choosing goodwill. Remember, we did the 2 columns, the column of labeling and the column of behaviors. And when we choose goodwill, we choose to live in behaviors, not labeling. Again, we live up here in our frontal lobes and not down here in our limbic. Wow. Not down here in our limbic system. And so you've made a conscious choice to choose goodwill for your spouse. The 4th day, what we talked about was how to become an emotional matador. Now, you need to be able to choose goodwill in order to become an emotional matador. You need to be able to be looking at their behaviors and not their labels, and deciding to step aside and let the charging bull of anger and rage and frustration and upset go by you while you take a break and go potty. And I would love to hear if you've done that. I would love to hear how it went for you. And then today, day 5, we're going to talk about how to not become offended. How to not become offended. And I'm just going to show you a little clip of a women's study I did a week or 2 ago that had this very topic in it about how to not become offended. So take a look at that. John the Baptist has known Jesus his whole life. Jesus was his cousin. John the Baptist sent his disciples to go follow Jesus instead of him, he said, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. He says, I'm not worthy to untie his shoes. John the Baptist knew who Jesus was. And he had a secure attachment with Jesus. And then Herodias and asked for John the Baptist's head on a platter as her reward. And John the Baptist is now sitting in prison awaiting his beheading. And boy, if there's ever a time where your secure attachment is going to fail and you're going to drop to baby crawling steps, it would be that. Fear, arousal, confusion, desperation, all those limbic system emotions are, man, really high. I don't blame him for being in that position and being and what he said. But here's what John the Baptist said to his disciples to go tell Jesus. He said, tell him, are you the one, or should we look for another? Amazing statement. Are you the one, Jesus, or should we look for another? What John said in that statement is just so poignant. The one is the label. Jesus, I have a label of you, of what you're supposed to do for me, about what's supposed to be going on, about this whole crazy situation where I am in prison, going to be beheaded. All of this is a label that I am living in. So Jesus, are you the Savior? Are you the one that's going to fix this? Or should I look for somebody else? At that point, his secure attachment is gone. Okay, he's in a place of fear, arousal, desperation, intensity, disillusionment, bugged at Jesus, because Jesus isn't the label that John the Baptist thought he should be. And I'm really sad for John the Baptist in that place. Have you ever been in that place before? Have you ever been there? I sure have. Ooh. And you know what? I think one of the worst things about being in that place, after doing so much work myself on secure attachment, was how disappointed I was in myself that I dropped to the ground and started crawling like a baby again. That was so disappointing to me. I thought I had become securely attached and, all that. And here comes this situation, and I just dropped to the floor and began crawling again. That was one of the worst parts about it for me, in a place of desperation. In fact, for months and months, all I could say was, I trust you, Jesus. Every time it all came up, I trust you, Jesus. I trust you, Jesus. Now, what that meant to me was this. When this happened to Jesus and John the Baptist, Jesus didn't get all butthurt. He didn't get all offended. He didn't get all bugged. He didn't stand in front of that bull of John's who's going, are you the one, or should we look for another? He didn't run from it. Okay? He emotionally matadored John. He said to John's disciples, go and tell John, the lame walk, the blind see, the deaf hear. Go and tell John behaviors. Go tell John behaviors. He didn't get all bugged about the label. He didn't get all into a big old mess about the label. He let it go by. And he said, go tell John the behaviors. That's intimacy. And then Jesus said something really interesting. He said, blessed is he who isn't offended by me. When I have a label of Jesus, I'm not in relationship with Jesus. When I have a label of what I think he should be doing or not doing, or fixing or not fixing, I'm not in relationship. I'm in intensity. And my attachment, like we talked about last week, my attachment to him is insecure. Okay? It's down here in my limbic system. But I'm blessed when I choose goodwill, I choose Jesus for who he is, I hold on to that, even when I don't understand what's going on. Even when it seems like this is a behavior Jesus is having that I don't like, or why isn't he fixing this, or why is he letting this happen? Okay. I'm blessed there. Okay. And that place of intimacy will bring peace to me, no matter the situation, no matter the scenario, no matter what's going on around me. So, John the Baptist, of all people, became offended at Jesus because, was Jesus being offensive? No, because John had a label for Jesus and an expectation of what that meant for John. And that wasn't what was going to happen for John. And when Jesus replied, he wasn't offended back. He didn't get all upset and hurt over it. He just simply said, John, here's my behaviors. And he stood on his behaviors. Isn't that awesome? Can you imagine if we could just stand on our behaviors? Just let our fruit speak for us. And let the people we love's fruit speak for them. What a novel concept. And when we do that, we allow other people's behaviors to speak for them. We allow our own behaviors to speak for us, and we don't become offended because it's way more about the other person than it is about us. The other thing is, I wanted to tell you, if you are more interested in that subject, the YouTube on how to become an emotional matador at the Relationship Road YouTube channel talks more about how to become an emotional matador and how to not become offended. And so, my dear friends, this is it. This is day 5's challenge is over. We're going to do some more things that encourage and edify and exhort you about your intimacy levels with God, yourself, and others in the near future. So keep an eye out on in your emails. And shoot me a line, please. Just say hi. I just stopped before I did this and prayed for a woman who broke my heart, sending me an email of what was going on with her. And I told her I was going to stop and pray right then, and I did. And I'd love to be connected to you that way. And please pray for me, especially that I would learn how to do all this delivery stuff on the internet. Okay, so bye-bye for now. Take care.